Good afternoon. This is Holly Yankert and my colleague, Luis Felice, and we are excited to spend the next hour with you. Hopefully that you'll be able to learn something extra about starting a business in North Carolina. And just want to go through a few quick housekeeping rules that if you have questions, which we definitely hope that you do, please type them into the chat box. That would be great. We will make an attempt to answer all the questions online. If there are still remaining questions, we'll make sure that we get those to the appropriate people. Please, as attendees, keep your login muted just to make sure that we cut down on any outside noise. And we will send out the recording along with a brief survey either later today or tomorrow morning. And with that being said, I think we are ready to move forward. Are you ready, Luis?
I am ready. Good afternoon to everyone. Man, it's such a pleasure to see some familiar faces, some new faces. It's always super exciting. Like Holly mentioned, my name is Luis Feliz, and I have the privilege to be part of the Small Business Advisors team for EDPNC. Now, let's begin with a basic question. And if you're wondering, my birthday is January 13. I won't tell you the year. I accept any types of gift. Oh, it's exciting to see smiling faces. Now, the basic question is, what is a small business advisor, may you ask? A question that everyone asks, right? But just to give you a little bit of background, these are things that we're going to be talking about. This is our agenda. As you see on the screen, we're going to talk about who we are, what we do, what's our role, and how can we help you. Also, basic steps, examples. We're going to talk about vocabularies that you guys hear often. And then I think one of the fun parts is additional resources. And let's start with who we are. What is SBA, the Small Business Advisors team? Well, we started in 1987, and we've had, several names. The first one is Business License Information. The second name that we had was Business Link North Carolina. This is a name that I knew. And now we are known, our best name ever, the Small Business Advisors, SB Advisors for the EDPNC. And we are a state-funded resource to help you start and be successful in business. So just to go back a little bit, we are educators. We're here to help you. We are not attorneys. We are not accountants. And we're here to provide you valuable information for you to be successful. We have a result of 72% startup business. And, your name doesn't matter, your age doesn't matter, where you come from, that doesn't matter. We are here to help you and for you to be successful. So as you saw on the screen, we had over 23,000 averages of clients that we help, that we interact per year. There's also a 96% average of customer satisfaction rating. So we're super friendly, but our main goal, our passion is to help you be successful, for you to help North Carolina also be successful. Like I said, we help startup businesses here. We help other people who are wanting to move to North Carolina and start a business know about rules and regulations when it comes to starting a business or a nonprofit. But for the moment that you all been waiting for, I'm going to leave you with the lovely Holly. And let me tell you a little bit about Holly. If you want to know any questions If you have any questions, you want to know answers to it right away, Holly is Google, but in form of a human. So she knows so much. She's so wise. So any questions that you guys have, Holly is your to-go person. But without further ado, I leave you guys with Holly.
Thank you very much, Luis. That, as you can tell, we are guinea pigs using a new animated presentation. So my apologies. It wants me to get talking very quickly here. So we're going to go through the basic steps, but certainly it's important to understand, why do these things seem so overwhelming? And it's mostly because of vocabulary. That one item can have multiple different names. So for example, the North Carolina sales and use tax ID number that you get from North Carolina Department of Revenue, that is if you're buying or selling products or installing, repairing, or maintaining others' property, but sales and use tax. It's also known as a wholesale number, a resale number, a seller's permit, a buyer's permit, a certificate of resale. Whoa, needless to say, it can be kind of confusing because different people use different terms. And what our goal is to help you get through that vocabulary whenever that you contact us or email us, and that we'll provide you information about the rules and the regulations. Business license, I love this. Everyone talks about it. Hey, do you have a business license? And to be technical, we have over 951 rules and regulations in North Carolina, and we'll go through those in a little bit. But with all of those rules and regulations, we do not have one piece of paper that says business and license. We have occupational licenses, we have zoning permits, but not a piece of paper that says business and license. Normally, when people ask you about that, they really want to know, are you a legit business? Is your business name registered? And that would end up on the Secretary of State's website. So there was something once upon a time called a business license that was repealed July 1st, 2015, due to General Statute 1050, Section 160A-211. Not that that maybe comes up a few times, but I do have that memorized. So let's get into starting a business. There's three main steps, and we're going to get into registering your business name. So if you are using a name different than your legal name, so my legal name is Holly Yanker. If I wanted to do Holly Yanker Buttons, yeah, it's my legal name, but it's different than what's on my driver's license. And so that's kind of how you know if you should register the business name. And you have one of two choices of how to register. You can register with the county as a sole proprietor or general partnership. And let's go into this a little bit more. And we do have an example further down, but the business name, it does need to be unique, because you would certainly hate for you to use a name that maybe somebody has a bad reputation. So it needs to be a unique name. And there's a way to verify this on the master online database, which happens to be with the North Carolina Secretary of State. Keep in mind that our group, the Economic Development Partnership, the Small Business Advisors, we are an extension of North Carolina Department of Commerce. And hence we work with all state agencies and all licensing boards, whether they would like to work with us or not. But on behalf of the state, that's our role. So we refer you to lots of different entities. And so again, with the business structure, if it's just you, great, you're a sole proprietor. If it's you and one other person, you could be a general partnership. That's a one-time fee of $26 to register. You happen to register with the County Register of Deeds, okay? They are lovely people. They are not advanced technology-wise, so you either have to mail the form or go in person. Some do have it that you can do some things online and pay an extra fee, but it's $26. That's it. The other option is if you want to be an LLC or corporation or even a nonprofit. These particular letters, not to worry, we're going to talk about those because on our website that we have a business forms page, and we just try to put letters in front to make it a little bit easier to identify. So first thing, you register the business name. Second thing, about federal taxes and state taxes. What a joy. You always get to pay Uncle Sam, the IRS, and let's talk about a federal tax ID number, also known as an EIN, an employer's identification number. All that is, it's a special number for the business that is unique, but it is attached to one's social security number. So if I apply for a federal tax ID number, it's going to be attached to my social security number. Because our social security numbers are so sensitive, we certainly do not want to use those. And also, if you want to open up a business bank account, it's very helpful to have a federal tax ID number for a business bank account. You want a personal bank account, you can open that up with your social security. The other aspect in terms of taxes is the North Carolina Department of Revenue. Overall, for the business, what money you make, you get to pay some taxes. And then if you're doing any kind of buying and selling of products, then that's a separate process that you do on a regular basis. So first thing, you're registering the name. And then second step, the fun of taxes. And now, woohoo, we get to talk about compliance. That there's all kinds of rules and regulations that I alluded to before. We have occupational licenses. That's an attorney, a medical doctor, a dentist. Okay, we're normally that you have to take an exam to become that particular profession. And then there's a state privilege license. A state privilege license is for many of those occupations, massage therapy, that then there is a privilege license. You could think of it as an extra tax, and that's paid to Department of Revenue, but it's a privilege for you to do massage therapy in North Carolina. And then the last thing, again, we have 951 rules and regulations. It's if you're doing anything to impact the environment, but not to be overwhelmed by all of this, because again, you register a name, you get a federal tax, and then we talk about local permits. So basically, the state has rules and regulations, and then locally, the beauty of democracy is if you have a business that maybe could be controversial, even if you're working out of your home, that there's often a home occupation permit, and it's just to make sure that you're following any local rules and regulations, whether that's signage or whatever else. All right, and now we are going to go through an example, and Luis is up, sir.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all that information. Super valuable, but don't worry, sometimes it can seem overwhelming. This is why the example that we're about to give you guys is gonna come in clutch. All right, so first example is, let's say you have, obviously you want to start a business, right? The business that you want to start, the structure is sole proprietor. In other words, we also call it an SP. So the sole proprietor, you're going to name it Maria's Masterpieces. All right, so the next slide, you're going to be able to tell that obviously it's a sole proprietor, and it's also considered an assumed business name. So step 2, you're going to file for a federal tax ID number and state tax ID. Now, heads up, once you start your business, you guys can, most of the time, not all the time, most of the time you will receive spam mail. saying, hey, you need to pay for X, Y, and Z, or it costs you 200 and X an amount of dollars to file for a federal tax ID number, it's a big X, it's a scam. So it's completely free to register for a federal state tax ID number. If we can go back, Holly, maybe to the federal, right there. Perfect. So the federal tax ID number, it's completely free. Now the state tax ID number, why is it good? If you're gonna buy material in bulk, in wholesale, and you're going to resell it like retail, right? So now we're gonna go to the next one. We're gonna talk about the answer that we just went through. So federal tax ID number is you, so it's optional if no employees or partners are involved. That's the form. And the NC sales and use taxes is a form N. All right, so let's move on with more examples. So the compliance, industry, and environment. So for this one, where you will contact the Raleigh Signage and Zoning City Department, just to make sure that you're crossing all your T's, you're dotting all your I's, in case you need any city permits. This is the office that you would want to call. And we can, once you go through that, oh, right here, perfect. But once you go through the steps, if you end up giving us a call, we will provide you this information for the city that you are particularly in. But for Raleigh, this is the phone number provided here. So that's step 3. Now let's move on to the last step. So all these business forms, you can find it visiting our website, edpnc.com. You can find a form to register your business, the form for federal tax ID, for the zoning department. Now let's go back to what Holly just brought down. If you are a sole proprietor, you will register your business with the county registers of deeds office in the county that you are currently residing in. So for example, if you live in, my wife's family is from Winston-Salem, and please don't laugh at me if I say the county wrong, but Forsyth, I think I got it right. She'll be so proud. But if you're in Forsyth County and you're a sole proprietor, you're going to go to the county registers of deeds in Forsyth County, and you're going to pay them $26. And that is where you're going to register your business as a sole proprietor or an assumed business name. For the state, that's where if you are deciding to be an LLC or a corporation, there is a $125 fee, and you register it with the Secretary of State of North Carolina. You can also find this form on our website. And then the federal tax ID number, what Holly was talking about, it's for obviously opening a bank account, for employees, for buying in bulk, for paying taxes, all these wonderful things. And then the last.
And Louis, just to clarify, the federal tax ID number is strictly an identifier. When you're buying in bulk, that's when the North Carolina state tax comes in bulk, but very good, because a lot of people get that confused. So federal tax, you need it to open up your business bank account, or if you have employees.
Awesome. Thank you for that clarification. Thank you. And then the last part is the zoning local permit. So it depends on location of the business, like we were saying before, or the registered agent. Now, registered agent, some people also, kind of hit a wall when they hear that terminology. It's just the person who is literally filling out the application. All right, Holly, I send it over to you.
All right, business name availability. So again, we've talked about that there's 3 main steps: registering the name. And so this is what we're going to go into a little bit more in detail. So again, from North Carolina, the master online business database is with the Secretary of State. And what's important to keep in mind is that with the Secretary of State. And we're going to see some animation here that what do you want to do when you go there? Woo! You want to go to business and you're going to check the name availability. This empty box, and if you see at the very first top, it says select what you want to search, company. There is a drop down. So if you wanted to, you could also search in assume business name. And by the way, that Maria's masterpieces, that's what we said in our example, that Maria wants to call her business Maria's masterpieces. We're checking in the Secretary of State's database and bingo, nobody has that particular business name. So it is unique. So again, to clarify that the box that says company, and let's see if we can do that. And I want to, let's just see this again. I want to check the name availability. And again, this first box that says company, that can be changed to assume business name. And again, assume business name are anything that you filed with the County Register of Deeds. But when you're checking, the most important thing is to make sure that there's not an LLC, a corporation or a nonprofit. You can often think of the LLC, corporation or nonprofit as kind of a parent, and the others could be considered children. In terms of business resources, we have lots of different partners, and many of them are watching today, so we're very excited about that. But it's the North Carolina Small Business Centers, and it is NC for North Carolina, SBC for the Small Business Center, and it's a network, so hence why it's .net. Each of our community colleges, there's 58 community colleges, and there's actually 61 small business centers, and they provide also free one-on-one business assistance. So our group, the EDPNC Small Business Advisors, we're more transactional. Oh, you want to do X? And then we'll explain, oh, there's 3 steps, 4 steps, okay? And where the Small Business Center can help you further with a business plan. There's all kinds of great classes and workshops, and those are free. Highly recommend them. They're outstanding. SCORE. SCORE is actually a nationwide organization. It originally stood for Service Corps of Retired Executives, but it is now just known as score.org. And these are people that have been there, done that in the working world, and they want to give back. And so it's a little bit like finding a therapist. It's important to have a good match. And there's SCORE locations all across the state, and you just go to score.org. SBTDC, you got to have acronyms, very important. So it just stands for Small Business Technology Development Center. So the small business centers are at the community college, and these are actually at 15 of the different state university locations. And their specialty is helping people with sustainability and to see over a 5-year plan what is going to be the financial progress and whatnot. So very good information. NC Bold, another great resource. NC Bold just stands for North Carolina Business and Occupational Licensing Database. So this is our master database that each of the state agencies and each of the entities that help you with occupational licenses and whatnot, that all of their requirements are listed here in NC Bold. We get to see even more than you do, yes. Partner resources, again, just a quick list. Pretty much anything state, federal, and locally, that all the different licensing boards for the state. Funding resources. there are entities called CDFIs, just stands for Community Development Financial Institutions. They're much like banks, that they are regulated, but these are nonprofits. A lot of the larger banks aren't really designed for Maria's masterpieces. It's just her. She's doing it just on the side. It's a gig kind of job. But here's a list of some of the community development financial institutions, and that they can assist you. Some are bilingual, so Thread Capital, Carolina Small Business Development Fund, again, very long name, but all of these different groups can help with lending resources. From a federal standpoint, there's the SBA.gov, the Small Business Administration, the federal government. NCIDEA is a organization, a nonprofit in Durham, and twice a year for different kind of technology or unique types of businesses that you can apply for grant funding. And then, as we said, these CDFIs. All right. And again, more resources, business certifications. I used to think that was like one thing. And it is in one regard, it's like saying ice cream, but then you can be a certified woman-owned business. You can be a certified minority-owned business, or a historically underutilized business hub, or the small business enterprise, or a veteran business. So there's all kinds of different business certifications. And if you want to learn more, a great resource is sba.gov, and then of course ncadmin.nc.gov. All right, and that brings us up to time for questions. If we can assist anyone.
Yes, of course. So like Holly said, you guys can utilize your chat box, but then we also encourage you to utilize the feature in the bottom where it says reaction. And if you want to raise your hand and unmute yourself, that's we can unmute you as well. That is also encouraged to do so. But we do have several questions, Holly.
Yes.
So you want to tackle them?
I am ready to jump in here. Okay.
All right, the first one, I'll read them to you. Yeah.
Please.
So this is from Lujen Pham. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. Oh, I see a lot of hand raises. I love it. Have a little bit of patience with me. I'll go as we go down the list as how we received the questions. Okay, the first one is, I just started my business 10 days ago. Congratulations. I only plan to hire independent contractors. I haven't gotten customers yet. Do I need to hire payroll company, and when should I do that? It has a following question.
And then the quarterly taxes. These are all outstanding questions. And I'm excited, Luis, because these are very popular questions.
Yeah.
When you go about hiring independent contractors, independent contractor is a 1099 person versus a full-time employee. We certainly have information and links to help you. I would strongly recommend going to irs.gov, and you can just do a single quote and put in independent contractors and then close it with a single quote, and all that great information will come up. It's worthwhile to read. For example, let's say you are a cleaning business and you're just telling people, I have these 5 houses and to clean them, okay? Then those cleaners could be considered independent contractors. But if you say you need to wear this type of clothing, you need to clean the house in this format, that you need to use these products, then it becomes more of an employee versus an independent contractor. So it's worthwhile to take a review of that on irs.gov. In terms of a payroll company, it is your choice. You can certainly utilize a payroll company. that's certainly encouraged. Whatever you can do to make life easier, I would strongly encourage you to do that. I can't officially say, oh, you should use this system or that system, because all of them are good and there's pros and cons. In terms of accountants and for taxes, yes, some people like to do their own, but if you're doing anything where you're selling products, it's probably a good idea to invest in an accountant or a bookkeeper to help you get things set up properly. That's certainly the most critical thing. And in terms of paying quarterly taxes, it depends on how much revenue and other aspects. But again, that you can go to irs.gov or that you can go to DOR.nc.gov. And so that's the Department of Revenue, and that's worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
And Luis,
Awesome.
I'll let you continue on.
Awesome. That was, a big meaty question. I love it. Keep them coming. So the second question we have from Zachary: for an e-commerce business LLC, when registering the business and registered agent, can the address used be a PO box, or does it have to be a permanent address? If permanent address, do you have to live there, or can it be a relative's address? Launching a new business soon, will be moving from current address soon afterwards.
All right, outstanding question. So going back to a registered agent, it is very fancy. In North Carolina, a registered agent is merely the person that says, you've got mail, okay? They are not necessarily an owner or part of the business. It is literally, as we know, that if somebody unfortunately might want to sue the business, okay, they would have to serve legal papers to a physical location. 123 Main Street. Do you have to live there? Absolutely no. Can you use a third party? Yes, you technically can. But it's encouraged to have a physical location, and it's required to have the physical location, because if you were sued, you would need to get a signature from someone there. So that's the registered agent. And I think we've answered that.
Yep, perfect. And the person has to be physically living there, like you mentioned. It has to be a permanent address.
It can be, they can live there, but they can choose maybe their brother's cousin, sister. It just has to be a physical mailing address. Perfect. You do not have to necessarily live there.
Perfect. Now let's switch a little bit. We're going to transition to a verbal question, and then we're going to come back to the questions that are in the chat box. Iris, hi, how are you?
Hello, everyone. Hello. Hey, Holly. Nice to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time. Thank you for this very informative session. It's amazing. I mean, a lot of great nuggets to take back with you. So my question is not more of a question than an informative process here. I am now with the Hub office. I am doing certification for the North Carolina Small Business Enterprise Program. I just wanted to let your people know that I have included the information in the chats, but also how important it is to become certified, because sometimes when people are bidding, they're looking for certified small businesses. And if, for example, we just had Retool, the third round of Retool. Retool was a grant made available for small businesses. So there is value in becoming certified. And I would be amiss if I didn't tell you to make sure that you go ahead and get certified, because they just may be another round coming up. That's all I wanted to say.
No, that is
some information.
And with the Retool North Carolina program, that is, just to clarify, that is for businesses that started before or during COVID, and that they need to be able to show that there was at least a minimum of 20% loss in business. And unfortunately, that is somewhat easy for many businesses. And so definitely thank you for mentioning that.
Yes.
Yes. And I love, thank you for joining, Iris. This is the importance of having different resources and partners. And this is why business owners, this is a message for you. It's super important that you register your business, that you take the first step in order for every one of us to take advantage of what North Carolina has to offer. There's so many resources, but we need to do things the correct way, right? Did you want to say something, Holly, before we move on to the next question?
No, I think we are ready for the next question. These are great questions.
All right. So Sally, her question is, I registered my business with SOS as an LLC, but did not check to see if the name was already taken. Since I am now Cardinal Creek Arts LLC, can I assume the name is not taken, or do I need to check further?
This is a great question, Sally. The onus is on the individual that's selecting the business name, and the SOS is Secretary of State. And so you should be in very good shape, because even though the onus is on you picking the business name, the Secretary of State often kind of double checks as well. All you need to do is go back to sosnc.gov and I want to, and go to verify the name. And all you do is in that empty box, put in your business name. You don't even have to worry about the LLC, just Cardinal Creek Arts, and hit search, and hopefully only your name is returned. In terms of the assumed business name, just to take this a little further, let's say Cardinal Creek Arts LLC also does business as Cardinal Creek Specialty Goods, okay? And that maybe would be doing business as a different name than the Cardinal Creek Arts LLC. And you could do that as an assumed business name. That would be filed with the county, but not to worry. It does show up on the Master Online Business Database. And again, that's why I was pointing out company versus you can toggle and do assume business name, just so that you can see that as well. In terms of missing any slides or anything, not to worry, that we will be sending the recording out along with a brief survey and the business certifications. Happy to provide you, I can send you an email, Joshua, about that as well. All right.
Awesome. Now, one more. Thank you, Holly. I told you guys, she is a fountain of wealth. If you want any answers, go to Holly Yonkers. And this is a number where we can be reached at if you guys have any questions. So I advise you just to take a screenshot of the current slide. Taj, thank you for participating. What's your question?
Hello, can anyone hear me?
Hi, yes.
Okay, hi everyone. First, I wanted to say thank you as well for Iris for letting me know, because I am HUB certified already. I just got approved for it last month, and it does have a lot of good benefits, and they have, webinars as well, where it teaches you how to use the certification. So thanks for letting me know about that funds, girl. And as for you two, this is the question that I have. So when I registered for my EIN, I wasn't informed properly. So which means I went to the IRS first to get my EIN, and then I went to the Secretary of State. So as with the Secretary of State, I paid the fee to be registered as an LLC, but with the IRS, it's a sole proprietor. And whenever I try to put in like my tax information for because I'm in e-commerce as well, whatever platform you on, I tried to do the S corporation or the LLC, and it won't allow me to because it says that my EIN is a sole proprietorship. So do I need to contact the sole proprietorship? Sorry, but with a sole proprietorship, it's also with your social security number. So could you explain that to me? And do I need to go to the IRS to correct that and say, hey, I'm actually an LLC?
Great question, outstanding question. And yes, it is very important. And a lot of places online, internet sites say, oh, start with the federal tax ID number. We definitely recommend start with the business name, because if you pick a name that's already selected, then it means a lot of back and forth with the IRS. So it's often good to check the business name with the Secretary of State first, and then to go to the IRS. It does happen that you think, oh, I'm a sole person, and you don't realize the implications. You can update with the IRS your business structure. And again, they have a great search box, and I would just put in change business structure, a single quote, change business structure, and the single quote, and that information will come up of what form that you can do to make sure that your federal tax ID number is consistent with the fact that your business structure is an LLC. It's important, kind of like if someone gets married, that it's important to have your business name, your legal name, that's consistent with your social security number, that's consistent with your address, just for simplification. But it's not a horrible process or anything. Just go to irs.gov. In the search box, you want to enter change business structure, and you should have the information readily available. Someone asked a question here about what's the difference between an LLC versus an S Corp. I love this question. So there's LLCs and there's C Corps. So an LLC means that you're limiting the risk of the business to the business. So if somebody tried to sue you, ideally that it would be that they can only go after what the business owns and not what you personally own. That's the concept of a limited liability company, or even a C corporation. So those are both with the state filing as an LLC or a C corporation. The S Corp, it absolutely sounds like it should be a business structure, but no, because that would make sense. No, that is not what it is. An S Corp, you could be a sole proprietor, you could be an LLC, and then become an S Corp. An S Corp is strictly a tax differentiation made by the IRS. So basically you say, yo, IRS, I'm not like a giant Coca-Cola corporation. I'm just little Maria's masterpieces, and I want to be taxed as a small corporation. And that's the S Corp part. So while it sounds like it's a business structure, it's just how you're taxed. And trust me, I am not an accountant, but if all you need to do is you can go to irs.gov and learn more. It's form 8823, I believe, but just go to irs.gov, and any business structure after you've registered in the state, then you can say to the IRS, I want to be taxed as a small guy. All right.
Awesome. Holly, now he also had a very good question that I think is super important for all business owners to know. It says, about 5 years ago, I started a business that became dissolved. After gaining experience and knowledge, I started a new business last week. I am in the process of opening a bank account, I imagine, but received a message saying my business EIN number was dissolved as well. Could this be from my previous business I started 5 years ago?
Great question. And this is all interesting because, as we've indicated, a federal tax ID number is attached to your social security number. They're both federal numbers, okay? But it is important, if your federal tax ID number was associated with Billy Bob's LLC, and now you might have a totally different LLC. So it is important that your federal tax ID number, the name of that, be consistent with what the business structure is. And again, oftentimes that you can apply for a new federal tax ID number. Yes, you had one, but keep in mind that each unique business that is an LLC or corporation, that you can have a federal tax ID number. The children, don't worry about, the children are protected as if they're part of the LLC. So again, with Cardinal Creek Arts LLC, that if you're doing Cardinal Creek product specialties or whatever, that you don't need a separate federal tax for the assumed business name. You just go with the federal. So again, going back to that the federal tax number that you had was associated with the old business, and you should be able to go ahead and apply for a new federal tax ID number with the new business name. Keep in mind, maybe you start a business with 2 other people, so you have a federal tax ID for that. Oh, and then maybe you have your own business and you have a federal tax ID number for that. The federal tax ID number is designed for the business itself to identify it, to make life easier so that the IRS doesn't have to go through all of the different owners' social security numbers. It is one number that identifies the business. In terms of being dissolved, if you are an LLC, a corporation, or a nonprofit, actually not a nonprofit, nonprofits, there are no annual report fees, but LLCs and C corporations, for you to continue to be an LLC, the first year it's $125, and then there's a $3 convenience fee to do it online. So that's the initiation of becoming an LLC or a corporation. But for an LLC, every year after the first year, that it is $200 to maintain the fact that you are an LLC. So there is a recurring fee. If you skip a year or forget about it, it happens, then you become administratively dissolved, and it just means you owe a fee, and you can resolve that with the Secretary of State. If you want to close the business and you choose to close it, then you are dissolving it. But admin dissolved just means you forgot to pay an annual report. And so I would just encourage you to try and obtain a new federal tax ID number. And if that becomes an issue, to contact the IRS, and it's best to do it at 7 a.m. 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Awesome. Thank you, Holly. Now, as we're coming to an end of our time with you guys, if we haven't answered all the questions, don't worry. Our phone number is located here on your screen. Please feel free to give us a call. We are a free service, and we are here to support you in opening a business in North Carolina. Now, our final question, verbal question from Lujin. Lujin, thank you for joining us. What's your question?
Hi, yeah, thank you, Louis and Holly. This is very informative session for all of us, I think. I just want to clarify if I understood you well, because I think you guys talk a lot about doing as DBA, doing business assume name, whatever is this called. But I think I need to rephrase what my question is like, do I need it? Like, if I don't use that at all, if I don't, I'm just, for right now, like my company name is Van Bell Global Language Services LLC. So I'm just only using that name. I just wonder if I don't use any other name, is that legal for not using as a name? Does that make sense with the question?
The question makes perfect sense. So as a single person LLC, technically, no. And a single person LLC, it's you and only you, that it is optional for you to have a federal tax ID number. You definitely, you mentioned that it's an LLC. You definitely want to have that registered with the North Carolina Secretary of State. And that just allows people to know your legal name with the business name. And state government, federal government's not so up to snuff with domain names and all that good stuff. So it is still important to register the name. So if you have registered with the Secretary of State, again, if it's only you as an LLC member and owner, you do not have to have a federal tax ID number. And again, keep in mind that we are educators. We are not experts, accountants, CPAs, that would be lovely, nor legal attorneys, but we're certainly happy to provide the information that we've gathered over time and then based on what the state of North Carolina encourages.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It would not the EIN. I did register for the EIN and the North Carolina State Secretary already, but I'm saying is that, like, do I need the fictitious name? Like, do I need
Great question. Great question. And my apologies for not zoning in on that immediately. The assumed business name, this is another fun vocabulary thing. Assumed business name, it is a DBA, doing business as, it's known as a fictitious name. It is an either or situation. You either register as an LLC or corporation for a for-profit business, or you register as a sole proprietor or a general partnership. It is one or the other. You're totally fine. You do not have to have anything else. You've registered with the Secretary of State, big guy, as an LLC, you're golden. It's only if you choose to do other business names underneath, you can do that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Holly.
My pleasure.
Oh, well, guys, we're coming to an end of our presentation. Like Holly mentioned, thank you guys so much for joining. All of you guys, we want to congratulate you if you already have a business in North Carolina or are thinking of starting a business. Our phone number is on the screen. At the end of this session, you will receive an email with a brief survey, and you will also receive this recording for you to go back and use it as a checklist or as a resource, even maybe as networking. But yeah, Holly, if you have any last regards.
And I definitely want to reiterate, thank you for your time. Thank you for allowing us to try our new animation and hipness. So this was very fun for us as well. And you can also go to our website, which is NC, and then S for small, B for business, advisors, ORS.gov. And we also have automated response. So if you have some quick questions, that's another way that you can get your questions answered quickly. We do have office hours from 8:30 to 4 daily, and we're a super small team, but we cover the entire state of North Carolina. So again, thank you all very much for your time. And again, as Luis said, either later this afternoon or in the morning, you'll receive the survey and recording. Thank you.